Yo, still Bills, what's the deal, man? Yo, peep gang, man. This gonna be another non-boxing video, man. I didn't even think to talk about it until now, man. But I gotta get this off my chest, man. So for the twos and fews that do watch my videos, this ain't gonna be no video about boxing. It's gonna be about what I saw on the Twitterverse last week, man. So y'all know I can't stand Fat Joe. Y'all know that. And he went on this rant last week. I'm sure everybody saw it. You know, if you're on Twitter, or if you're on any sort of social media, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever, you saw that bullshit that he put out with all of the Puerto Rocks and the Dominicans and the Cubans and the Panamanians paying their contributions to hip hop and yada yada yada. And it's really disingenuous. And what I mean by that is nobody is saying that Latinos didn't contribute to the culture. We're being really dishonest if we say that. Very dishonest if we say that. But it's the difference between being a contributor, and a creator. And they're kind of trying to readjust and redefine their position within the confines of hip hop culture. And it's becoming problematic to the point where, you know, like they don't, like I've said it before, man, Latinos have gotten overtly comfortable with us sharing everything with them. Whatever gains in society we get, we're automatically supposed to divvy that up with them because, hey, it's black and brown. And that's just not, like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. So now when you come to something as precious as hip hop, now it's a black and brown thing. And it's really dismissive of history, man, because there's a multitude of documentaries that say opposite. I think what's his name? B-Boy Star Child. I think that was his name. I think he's a Puerto Rock as well. I met him before. He said it before. He said it in this. It's a DVD called The Freshest Kids, where they're pretty much breaking down. It's a B-Boy documentary, but because B-Boy is one of the key components within hip hop culture that they was trying to use as to push the culture to a certain level of what's the word I want to look for? Mainstream success. That's it's going to surround, all they're going to speak on the culture abroad and not just relegated to b-boy culture, even though that is what the majority of the DVD was about, man. But even he said in the DVD, he was like, it was, by the time the late 70s came around, this was, it was no longer an Afro-American thing. It was no longer an Afro-American thing. And one thing that he does that's kind of dishonest is he goes to, he always points the finger to the rocksteady crew, which there's no doubt about it, how pivotal they are within hip hop culture. It's in particular b-boy culture, man. I mean, I think, Ken Swift to this day is one, I think, he's one of my favorite b-boys, man, minus the power moves. Just on straight style and finesse and just footwork and just how this dude just gets down, man. He was just, I always thought he was just like, yo, man, this is one of the freshest b-boys out here, man. Just like, if you can beat somebody just off styling and off your, your musicality and your, just your footwork and everything, and you just styling on somebody. If you can outdo somebody who's doing power moves after power move, that says a lot about you, man. And Ken Swift, I think, was always one of them dudes, man. So Kenny Swift has always been one of my favorite b-boys. Always. But the thing is, they were preceded. They were preceded. And who were they preceded by? Spy. And the nigga twins. I barely hear anybody mention Keith and Kevin of the nigga twins. I barely hear that. So to sit here and everybody is so dismissive of them because they just, they want so bad for the Puerto Rocks to be a part of this and be co-creators to it, they'll bypass any and everybody else and point straight to the Rocksteady crew, when the Rocksteady crew didn't come around till like the late 70s. It's just real dismissive, man. It's like, yo, why do we gotta do this shit? Why can't y'all just be cool with saying, yo, we came along afterwards? You know what I'm saying? The DJs, there wasn't a plethora of Latino DJs to the point where you could say, yo, we was around. We was around, like we was out there. We was out there. One or two sprinkled in the mix doesn't speak. The few has never spoke for the masses. The few has never spoke for the masses, man. And there's pioneers who are telling you they wasn't around. And not even pioneers. There's people who was around telling you they wasn't around, and you can listen and you can tell that by the history in which they're going in. And not just history that you would get off of a documentary, but they're naming folks that you wouldn't even know, like, who was he? People who were there in their infancy, who was, like, no, you can't just sit here and crowbar these cats in because it was maybe one or two of them around. Even Kool Herc said it himself. Yeah, this is what Black Americans were doing. You dig? Like, this is what they was teaching me to do everything. And that's another notion that we need to dead, that DJ Kool Herc created hip hop. He didn't. Herc is the dude who brung it all under one roof. 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. Herc is the guy who pretty much put it all in one place, that we can say, yo, it was a conceptual period for hip hop before it got its name. Just like a child, it's a conceptual period to create a child. 9 months down the line, 10 months down the line, all right, cool. There's parents who say, yo, we're not gonna name this child until we see him. And we're gonna go or see it. And after they hatch, all right, cool. The name is so-and-so. That's what it was with hip hop. But hip hop was going on before it had a name. This culture spans back to the late 60s. It spans back to the late 60s, man. So when you talk about Herc being the creator of this culture, you have to think, all right, cool. So what you're saying is Herc created b-boy, and Herc created rap, and he created DJ, and all of the because DJs have always existed, but how they DJ within hip hop is far different than how they was DJing in the disco clubs and shit like that. It's far different. It was far different. You would have to credit him with all of, with creating, being the architect for all of these elements, and he just wasn't. He wasn't. And that's okay, because he's the godfather of this culture. He's the godfather. We just got to be real about shit. Because honest, we just have this, like, Black Americans are just supposed to share any and everything that we have claims to with everybody, and it's unfair. It's very unfair. It's very unfair. Caribbean folks can come up here and carve out a space for themselves and stamp that shit for themselves, and they don't have to. We can't be a part of that, and I'm okay with that. But when is it acceptable for us to say, nah, man, this is our thing over here, without being vilified for it? And that's what it is that we're trying to do. And I'm loving it that we're doing that shit, man. So there's certain narratives that have to be deaded. Latinos didn't create hip-hop culture. They didn't. They did not. They didn't come around till much later on. It did not come around till much later on. And the few in between do not speak for the masses. It's unfair. Even when you go over to West Coast culture, it's later on down the line. Like early on, it's maybe, the biggest West Coast culture to come out of California is, popping and locking. You didn't see a plethora of Latinos popping and locking. You didn't. Shit, man. Even with the lockers, you saw Tony Bassell was an original locker. Is an original locker. She's still alive. You didn't start seeing the loose cabooses and other Latino lockers until later on down the line. With poppers, man, you saw, rest in peace, Poppin' Taco. You see, well, can you? Do they want to? I'm kind of standoffish with Shabba-Doo. because he's Puerto Rican. He's moved from Chicago and moved out west to LA, but he's Puerto Rican. But I don't know, that's a brother, that's a light-skinned dude. That's a light-skinned dude. A light-skinned nigga, you dig? Rest in peace to Shabba-Doo as well, man. But the thing, all of what I'm saying is, with that, it's they're so far in between, and there wasn't enough to the point where you could say it was we was there in bulk. Shabba-Doo stood alone, and even then, I didn't even know he was Puerto Rican until he said, "Yeah, I'm Puerto Rican." It's a light-skinned nigga. And then when you get into the popping, you dig, like later on down the line, that's when you start seeing all of the popping tacos or the mysterious poppers and all of the cats up there in the Bay. I think Money B didn't come around into the 80s, and the Samoan heads, the Blue City Strutters and all of them cats. They were non-black, but they came around much later after the groundwork had already been set. Now, when you talk about a cat like Poppin' Taco was a dude who definitely contributed with styles that he brung with the claymation and shit like that. And the snaking and the cobras and shit like that. He was did he create the cobra? I'm not too sure, but I know he's the architect for claymation. It's a style of animation. He brung that to the fucking game. There's nobody who can deny that, man. But every other, when you talk about all other styles within that make up the popping brand, whether it's a Fresno style popping or LA style pop locking or Bay Area style Fillmore and strutting, it was a black thing. You gotta think, man, the Strutters were performing at the motherfucking Black Panther rallies way back in the early 70s up there in Oakland. So we, this mindset that we have to, everything that we do, we have to share with everybody as co-creators. It's kind of toxic. It's kind of toxic, man. You dig? They wasn't around at hip hop in its inception. And when I say they, I mean them in bulk, like how they are now. When you even talk about rap, man, the first Latino to really get love like that didn't come around to the mid-90s. Motherfuckers wasn't fucking with that Kid Frost shit, and even Cypress Hill. Like, it was like, oh shit, all right, cool, Cypress Hill, they on some other shit, it's kind of like a rocker hip-hop type deal. All right, yeah, whatever it is, what it is, but Kid Frost was speaking up on behalf of the Chicano culture, you dig? Like, he was holding it down. But the first Latino to get love amongst blacks and everybody was Pun. That wasn't till the 90s. So I'm just saying, it's just real dishonest to sit here and, bunch them in as co-creators of the culture when they wasn't around like that. And the shit, the elements that they thrived in, they didn't become representatives of that element, within that element, until after the groundwork was already laid. We talk a lot about breaking, man. They say, I think it's documented, the first man that they said hit the floor, the first motherfuckers they said hit the floor was the nigga twins, Keith and Kevin. I don't see nothing wrong with, why is it so blasphemous for us to say, yo, this is our culture, we created this. This is our brain product. This is our intellectual property. Why do we get vilified for doing that? And for Fat Joe, I can't. One thing I will say, I think he is starting to dial back on the nigga shit. He's starting to feel it. I think he is. I think when he gets in a certain element, it just kind of becomes natural. He just starts slipping right back into it, man. But other elements, it's like, all right, man, let me chill with this. I think he is starting to feel the ramifications of it. And I think it is starting to fuck with his brand. I think this right here is going to fuck around and kill his brand. But it's just the push that he's given. Thank you for all your contributions. He's on radio. It's black, it's black and Latino 50-50. We created this 50-50 and yada, yada, yada. And it's all African music, man. Puerto Rican, it's all African. No, it's not. Dominican, Panamanian, it's all African. No, it's not. Lineage-wise, no, it's not. Culturally, you can say that, definitely. But it's insulting. It gets to a point where it's like, yo, bro, you're trying, you're trying to be chaotic with this, man, and it's really not cool. It's not cool at all. Respect, respect the people, respect the element, respect the brand that is hip hop. Y'all wearing around, and that's okay. That's okay, man. We can't make, despite all of the African roots within reggaeton, we can't say that we created that, that genre of music. We can't say that. We can't say that, motherfucker. The reggaeton was created in motherfucking Panama. And they tell you the Afrocentricism with it, like that, they was influenced by, as far as the music is concerned. Black people can't make claims to that. Not no Black Americans. It's thriving more so in Puerto Rico because that's where it eventually transitioned to be more evolutionized. But it started in Panama. Can't no Black American say that we made claims to this just because of our influences within the culture. No. If you're going to do that, then you have to credit all the the like craft work and shit who was from France and all of these other electro style beats that influenced break beats and early hip hop music, like the Soul Sonic Force. You dig? Like people who the more electronic, what they electro style music, man, that came, a lot of that shit was influenced by people from overseas, from electro bands from overseas. Shit, do they have claims to hip hop culture? No, they don't. They influenced, absolutely. I won't say that they didn't. Or even the James Brown. A lot of people think that when b-boys hit the floor, like my pops had it, he said it. I bet they be breaking all of the hip hop beats at these battles. I'm like, no, they don't. They don't. That's a misconception, because rap is the hip hop rap is the musical representative of hip hop culture. So naturally they think that anybody who's involved within this culture automatically does it to rap music. B-boys didn't dance to hip hop music. B-boy, break boy, it's a reason why they call them that. They're breaking, and on that DVD you watch The Freshest Kids that I was talking about earlier. They give you a breakdown as to what the term break boy stands for. You're gonna hear a different argument for y'all, man. We was break boy. Herc is gonna tell you I named them that because it looked like they reached a breaking point on the dance floor and they had to let loose. But the general consistency surrounding being named b-boys because they responded to the break beats, the breakdowns of the music when they would extend the breaks. And that's Herc's contribution to the culture. The merry-go-round. Buy 2 turntables and extend the breakdown for this particular song right here. And they called that the merry-go-round because all that, the cipher was created and all the b-boys would step in the middle of the cipher and go to work. And even when you talk about influence, man, they break down that as well. The Lindy Hop. The Lindy Hop was fucking pivotal within b-boy culture just because of how dynamic the moves they were doing was. They'd be touching the floor. They talk about this. Should we credit Lindy Hop to fucking hip hop culture as well as being an influence and a contributor? Kung Fu movies were used as an influence as well. Should we credit the Asians to Kung Fu cinema because of Kung Fu cinema and say that they're part of this culture as well? They help create the culture. Like, no, it's dishonest. It's dishonest. But back to what I was saying about the music aspect of it, man. A lot of people tend to think that because what it is that you do, because hip hop, rap music is at the forefront of the culture, so everybody does everything. Anybody involved within hip hop does it to hip hop music, and that's just not the case. B-boys didn't break to hip hop music. They didn't break to hip hop music. They would break to break beats. Break beats, not hip hop music. I had to talk to my homeboy, rest in peace, my man Juice So owns. So Omaha, Nebraska. But I had to explain that to him, like, people, you're a rapper and you're a skilled rapper at that. I fuck with you. But I just think it's a misunderstanding of the culture. B-boys didn't dance to hip-hop music. They didn't dance to hip-hop music. Those were funk records and shit like that, and James Brown, and oh my God. That was James Brown and a multitude of other, a multitude of other sounds that they, that triggered a response out of them. Not hip hop music. They wasn't rocking the funky 4+1 board and Grandmaster Cass and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. They wasn't doing that. That wasn't their style of music that they chose to be the music to represent their dance. So we have to keep things in perspective. But when I told my pops that, yo, man, like, people, they don't get down to, they will and they can. There's certain hip hop songs, there's certain rap songs that would trigger a b-boy. You throw on Set It Off by Big Daddy Kane, the b-boys is gonna lose their mind. They gonna lose their mind in that cipher. If a motherfucker don't believe me, go watch it was a BC1 is a big b-boy event, and they had Big Daddy Kane come out there and perform. And as soon as he knew what it was too. He knew what it was, because as soon as he started spitting it, let it roll, get bold. I just can't hold back the flow, because I'm a man with soul and controlling the effects of what the heck rock the discotheques. This Rufus was next. They went nuts. They went out of their minds, man. So there's certain tracks that's gonna trigger a b-boy. They really just get out of control, man. But for the most part, they was getting down to break beats. And James Brown. On Time for Some Action by Redman, they going to work. So there's hip hop tracks, most definitely, that you can play that's gonna trigger them. I mean, Apache from the Sugar Hill Gang, they was they gonna wild out to that too. But for the most part, it's break beats. That's what the dance was created on, break beats. Not rap music. It was break beats. So people just got to get a little bit more versed within this culture, and you dig, and understanding of it. And there's nothing wrong with letting you know that, nah, man, they didn't create this brand. They did not create this brand. They were a part of it later on down the line. But when you talk about an archetype, nah, they wasn't around. Nah, they wasn't around, man, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm glad that people, that Black Americans are really starting to take their culture back and put their foot down and let it be known, like, y'all not about to keep disrespecting us. We're not going for it. I absolutely love it. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, man. So get Fat Joke the fuck out of here. Just please and thank you. Get him the fuck out of here, man, because it's no shame. It's shameless what he does. Thank you to all your contributions. Which I can understand it. Yo, all right, if you was doing it from a paradigm to where you're acknowledging Latino presence within the culture, all right, cool. I wouldn't be mad at that. But you are just trying to bypass being a fucking a contributor to being a co-creator. You've said it yourself, 50-50. And that's a fallacy. I don't give a fuck if you're from the Bronx. If you're from the Bronx, you should know that much more better. But yeah, man, we gotta walk within a certain truth when it's time to talk about hip hop culture, man. And it wasn't around like that. They wasn't around like that. Cass is gonna tell you, man, they was in the park playing the congas and dissing the few Latinos who was fucking with black people. They was dissing them. Why you over there with them niggas, man? Why you doing all that nigga shit, that nigga music? They were disrespectful at first, but just like everybody else, they thought that this shit had a short lifespan. Hip hop wasn't supposed to lead the 80s. Everybody was gearing up for that. That shit ain't making it past the 80s. And here we are now, 30 years of 50. It'll be 50 next year. Here we are, and it's the global phenomenon and a moneymaker, man. So respect the culture. Deuces.